Okay, so in section 3.4, we talked about slope. There's more to say about slope, so this is kind of a continuation of the first section 3.4 we did. So I just called it more slope. Keep it simple. Okay, first thing first. We can talk about negative slopes or positive slopes. So if you think about this in the real world, if it's the beginning of the month and you have to pay your rent and pay your utilities and pay your car note and pay on a loan and pay for groceries, sorry, and pay for gas and other kind of family personal expenses. Is your bank account likely to go up or to go down? Well, if we're thinking logically, the amount of money you have in your bank account is going to go down. So that slope would be negative. It would go down. You're be subtracting money from your bank account, which is a negative amount. On the other hand, let's say you don't have very much money. You go and you buy yourself a lottery ticket, and you somehow or another win the lottery. But you win a lot of money. Or you get a really great job, which gets you a really huge pay increase. You go from like working from having $8 an hour to like $15 an hour. I mean, you make $7 an hour more. You're making a lot more money. Is your bank account likely to go up or go down? Well, it's more likely to go up, the amount of money you have. So that's a positive slope. It's increasing rather than decreasing. Slope tells us the rate of change. How much does something change? Does it change in a positive direction or a negative direction? If it's the beginning of the month and you have a ton of expenses, your bank account is going to change in a negative direction. You're going to be losing money. I mean, you start out with what, $1,000 or something, $1,500, whatever, and you just start losing money because you've got to pay your rent and you've got to pay your car note and you've got to pay everything else. You're losing money, so it's negative. But if you get a big raise, you're making more money, and so your bank account is increasing from what it was before. And so a positive slope is going up, a negative slope is going down. We also have zero slopes and undefined slopes, which are a little harder to explain in a real world context, but those also exist. But you can see from the photo here, from the picture, from the graph here, that if a positive slope, the line will go up. A negative slope, the line will go down. Notice it goes down if it's negative and up if it's positive. And that's always true. Whenever you have a positive sloped equation, like so, we know that it's going to go up. Whenever you have a negative sloped equation, we know it's going to go down. That's always true. About every negative line and every positive line. Always true. Let's remember something about the zero stuff. If I take 0 divided by 1 and I plug in my calculator will tell me that it's equal to 0. If I take 1 divided by 0, it won't do it. It just won't. You can try putting it in 1,000 times. You can go get someone else's calculator. You can go around the world and get every calculator from every single person you meet, and it will not do it. You can go find yourself the biggest supercomputer in the world, a mega calculator at the Pentagon, and you can go, what's 1 divided by 0? And the supercomputer that calculates infinitesimally large numbers will tell you that it doesn't work. That's because you can't divide by 0. That's a really important rule. But notice that 0 divided by 1 is fine, and 1 divided by 0 is not fine. So your calculator will tell you this when you get to it. So That's the thing, is you have a calculator, your calculator is your friend, use your calculator, and it will tell you things like that. So you don't have to guess. There's no guessing. It's just your calculator will tell you these things. All right. This is saying the same thing. Negative slope slant downward from left to right. Positive slope slant upward from left to right. So you always trace it from left to right. And that's a really important rule, that whole left to right thing. All right. Slope-intercept form. We've been talking about this for a little bit. I think I've pointed this out several times. It's one way to write a line, is slope-intercept form. It's y equals mx plus b. M is always slope. That's just something we know. Just m is slope. And 99% of the time, it's slope. And so we can always tell what the slope of a line is just by looking at it, if it's in this form, the slope-intercept form. So for example, if I have y equals 3x plus 4, I know what the slope is. I don't have to do any algebra, any work. I don't have to subtract anything, multiply anything, divide. I don't have to do anything. Just look at it. I look at it, and it says 3x plus 4, so the slope is 3. If I have y equals 4x minus 7, which is in slope-intercept form, the slope is 4. If I have y equals negative 9x minus 1, the slope is negative 9, because it's the number next to the x. All right, that's how you figure out what the slope is if you have it in this form. All right. And 0b is y-intercept. All right. We're going to use a term, and that term is going to be reciprocal. Reciprocal just means flip. So the reciprocal of 2/3 is if you flip 2/3, 2's on top, 3 on bottom. If you flip that to 3 on top and 2 on bottom, flip it, then that's reciprocal. The reciprocal is 3/2. If I have 6/1 and I flip it, then the 6 goes to the bottom and 1 goes to the top because you flipped it, and I get 1/6. So reciprocal of 6/1 is 1/6. You just flip it. That's all reciprocal means. Right? So that's going to be useful for us when we talk about these kind of lines. All right. Parallel and perpendicular lines. Parallel lines are lines that are in the same plane that never intersect. So they're basically sort of like, if you think of the idea of train tracks, sort of, or the on a road you have a left lane and the right lane. The left lane and the right lane of a road never cross. The left lane is the left lane, the right lane is the right lane. They never cross each other. If you are in the right lane, you shouldn't be in the left lane. If you're in both lanes, that's a problem, right? You've seen that before. People who are in both lanes, that creates car accidents. So either you're in the left lane or you're in the right lane. These are parallel to each other. They never intersect. Perpendicular lines are lines that meet at a right angle. So think about when you get to a four-way stop, right? I get to a four-way stop or intersection. Then those are two perpendicular lines. So this is going up, and I'm trying to think of a point of reference here. This is going up one street. This is going up a different street. This is a four-way stop. They intersect right here, basically at a 90-degree angle. So if we think of perpendicular lines, it's like they are two roads or two streets that intersect at a four-way stop. Parallel lines are like the left lane and the right lane of a road. They never intersect. They shouldn't intersect. If they do intersect, that's a problem. But parallel lines never intersect. They always go just like that. And perpendicular lines are like a four-way stop. They cross each other like this, and you have a point in the middle where they meet. Okay. Parallel lines never cross. They also have the same slope. That's a really important thing. Parallel lines have the same slope, and we'll get to that in a minute. All right. Perpendicular lines meet at a right angle. The slopes of two perpendicular lines are opposite reciprocals. What does that mean? Opposite signs and flipped. Reciprocal just means flipped. Like if I say take the reciprocal, I say flip it. And you can see you have these two lines here. They meet at a right angle, which is denoted by this symbol. And they are opposite and opposite signs. One is going up, the other one is going down. So they're going in opposite directions. That tells you they're opposite signs. Because positive lines go up and negative lines go down. So if they're going in opposite directions, that means that they have opposite signs. Okay. So let's look at these two lines. One line is y equals 2x plus 3. The other line is y equals 2x minus 4. Notice that they are parallel to each other. They never touch each other. So let's kind of analyze it using stuff that we know. The two lines are y equals 2x plus 3 and 2x minus 4. Notice the number next to the x are the same. I have a 2 and a 2. The numbers are the same next to the x. I don't care that the 3 and the negative 4 are different. It doesn't really matter. It sort of matters for other things, but in terms of me trying to figure stuff out, this is not nearly as important. What's really important is that this 2 and this 2 are the same. That's what's important about it. This tells us the slope of both lines are equal to 2. So the slope is equal to 2 on both of those. I know that because it's the number next to x. Since both lines have the same slope, 2 and 2, they are parallel lines. I can tell that by looking at the slopes using these equations. 2 and 2 are parallel because they have the same slope. Now let's talk about perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines are ones that go in opposite directions. Notice this one goes down and that one goes up. They go in opposite directions. That's one clue. Now let's look at the slopes. The slope of the first one is 3, which is the same as 3 over 1. Slope of the second one is negative 1/3. How do I know that? Because I looked at the number next to the x. So one is positive 3. The other is negative. That means they're opposites, right? They're opposite signs from each other. And then if I flip 3, which is technically 3 over 1, I get 1/3. So if I take that 3 and I flip it over, I get negative 1/3. But they're also opposite signs. They are opposite signs and flipped from each other. Well, opposite and flipped is perpendicular. Okay, so now let's take that information and we're going to use it to determine whether or not two lines are parallel or perpendicular or even neither, because they could be neither, right? They might not be either one. Again, a reciprocal is what happens when you flip a fraction. So we want to ask 3 questions. Here are 3 questions we want to ask. Question number 1, are the slopes the same? If they're the same, that tells us something. Question number 2, do the slopes have opposite signs? That if they have opposite signs, that tells us something. Question number 3, are the slopes reciprocals? In other words, can you flip one to get the other? So now let's take those 3 questions, and we're going to ask those 3 questions of any 2 lines that were given in that order, and we'll see what happens. All right, if they're the same, then they're parallel. If they're not the same, they're not parallel. If they have opposite signs, then the lines, and now I'm going to point this out, might be perpendicular. If the line, if your answer to the second question is opposite sign is no, then they're not perpendicular. And to answer the third question, are they reciprocals? If the answer is yes, and they are also opposite signs, then there's perpendicular. If you answer the third question, are they reciprocals? Are they flipped? No, they're not perpendicular. So let's go through and we're going to try to answer those three questions, answer them, and see what happens. Let's take two lines. Y equals 2x minus 1 and y equals 2x minus 4. The slope of the first line is 2. The slope of the second line is 2. How do I know that? Because it's a number next to x, 2x. So it's 2. Slope is 2. Slope here is 2. The slope here is also 2. The slopes are the same. If the slopes are the same, they are parallel. Done. That one's done. They are parallel. They have the same slope. We don't have to ask any more questions. They are parallel. They have the same slope. Yay. That's it. We can circle that, underline it, put a big box around it, and say they're parallel. End of story. All right. I'll take a second example. Let's take these two lines. 3/2 x minus 1, negative 2/3 x plus 4. So, what are the slopes of the two lines? The slope of the first line is 3/2, or 3 over 2. The slope of the second line is negative 2/3, or negative 2 over 3. So let's ask our two questions. Number one, are they opposites? Well, this is positive, and that is negative. Yes, they are opposite signs. Question number two, are they flipped? Can I flip 3/2 to get 2/3? Well, if I take 3 over 2 and I flip it, I get 2/3. So yes. So both of these boxes are checked. They are perpendicular. So the first thing I asked was, of course, are they the same? They're not the same. I looked at that and I saw that immediately. So I knew it wasn't parallel. But then I asked the question, are they opposite signs? Yes. Then I asked the question, are they flipped? Yes. Then they're perpendicular. All right. Let's go here and let's figure out whether two lines are parallel and perpendicular. Let's look at two slopes. I have y equals 2x minus 1, y equals negative 2x minus 4. The slope of the first line is 2, and the slope of the second line is negative 2. So, question number one, are the slopes the same? No. Well, you say, well, they're both 2. Yes, but one is negative and one is positive. They're different. Even though it's the same magnitude, it's the same number, 2, the slopes are different because one is positive and the other is negative. So I'm not going, okay, well, the answer is 2. No, it's a positive 2 and a negative 2. So they're different. The slopes are the same. Our slopes are different. One's negative, one's positive. So they're different. So they're not the same. Are the slopes opposite signs? Yes, that they are. One's positive, one's negative. The slopes have opposite signs. So that's true. Are the slopes reciprocals? Can you flip one to get the other? If I flip a 2, well, I get negative 2. Now, when I say flip, I don't mean, when you say flip, I don't mean make it negative. Flip means flip it over like a fraction. 2 will flip over to give me 1/2. Because 2 is 2 over 1. So 2 flips over to give me 1/2. That's not the same as that. That's negative 2. If I flip over 2, I would get 1/2. But in this case, I have negative 2. That's not the reciprocal. So I cannot flip them to get the other one. They're not reciprocals. So so our answer to the three questions, no, they're not the same. That tells us that they are not parallel. Yes, they have opposite signs. All right, that's good. Let's keep going. No, they're not reciprocals. Oh, So in order for it to be perpendicular, they have to be opposite and flipped. They're opposite, but they're not flipped, which means one of these things didn't work, which means they're not perpendicular. So it's not perpendicular, it's not parallel, so what else could it be? I guess it's neither. It's none of them, which is fine, because not every line is parallel or perpendicular. You can have lines that aren't related in any way at all. So let me kind of walk back through this. First question, are the slopes the same? No, one is 2 and one is -2. They're not the same. Number 2, are the slopes opposite signs? Yes, they are. One's positive and one's negative. Question number 3, are the slopes reciprocals? No, they are not. One is 2, the other is -2. The reciprocal of 2 is 1/2. So they're not reciprocals. So that means they're not perpendicular, they're not parallel, they're nothing. They're neither. All right. You'll practice those, and there's an assignment on it. I think there's an assignment on it, so that should be fine. Okay. That was kind of anticlimactic.